Okay, so let's talk about mental triggers. And this is the weapons of mass influence. And these are unbelievably powerful in basically influencing people, get them to do things. And these don't just work in product launches, they work everywhere in your life. Whether it's trying to get dates or trying to get your kids to do something or working with your contractor or whatever, it just, it'll work anywhere where you're trying to create some change in other people's behavior, really. And so there's a lot of different triggers. I'm just going to go through some of them. Some of them I'll repeat from the book. And because I know not everyone's read the book, and maybe you'll get a little bit more when I cover them via video. So the deal with these mental triggers is they have been in our brains forever. From when we were living in caves, these things have evolved. I'm not going to go into the reasons of why they evolved so much, although, I'll tell you one thing is there are good logical reasons why we have all these, and they help us move through the day and make better decisions. That's what it's about. Make better, easier decisions is what these things are all about. So first of all, one other thing is we'll talk about them and I'll walk through them individually, but when you layer them on top of each other is when they really start to have a lot of power. When they work together is when they have a lot of power. So the first one I want to talk about is authority. And authority is one that, like, if we perceive someone else has authority in a situation, either they have control or they have knowledge, then we will inherently respect their opinion and listen to them more than if we didn't perceive them as having authority. And you think about uniforms, like police officers in uniforms or firefighters in uniforms. Someone walks in the uniform, boom, it's authority right there, right off the bat. Doctors, they've got those white coats, they come walking in, you see a doctor come walking in, and all of a sudden you're like intimidated. You're going to listen to whatever they have to say. Authority is really, really powerful. In the book, I tell a story of one time when I was when I was a kid, when I was still in high school, and there was, we were in a traffic jam, and we had someone in our car get out with a flashlight and just start waving to people and basically walking in front of us, waving us through this traffic jam, and everyone was stopping just because this person had a flashlight. It was just a 17-year-old kid with a flashlight. That was it. But that flashlight was enough to give them authority. It's like, wow, that person they've got a job to do, right? So authority is really, really powerful. Like in our kinds of business, you can basically develop authority just through giving great content. If you can start teaching about your topic with some amount of intelligence, then you instantly develop authority. Just even being on video, you have authority. Publishing gives you authority. If you put out a book, you've got authority. But even if you publish a newsletter via email, that gives you authority. Just sitting here in front of a white screen here with decent looking video gives me authority. So there's a lot of different ways you can develop that authority outside of putting on a uniform. And it's really, really powerful. Often it's one of the first things we want to lead with when we're in a launch or we're in a selling situation is establish your authority. Now another one, a favorite of mine is reciprocity. And reciprocity is this idea of if you give something to someone, they'll want to give something back to you. And sort of like, so in my home we celebrate Christmas, and Christmas, lots of things involved with Christmas, but part of it is giving gifts. And if you show up at someone's house with a gift and they don't have or put it the other way around, someone shows up at your home with a gift for you and you don't have a gift to give to them, then it's a horrible feeling because it's just built into our brains. Like when someone gives something to us, we want to give something back. And by giving great content and great value through your pre-launch, you can really develop fantastic reciprocity. And then when you ask your visitors, your clients, the people on your list, your customers, to give something back to you, then they will feel some level of reciprocity and they're going to be more inclined to do so. It could be like, could you leave a comment? Or it could be buy my product. So reciprocity is super powerful. Trust is a really big one. And if you think about trust is a funny thing, it's like we often talk about, your job in your business is to get your clients or your prospects to know, like, and trust you. And we're going to talk about liking in a little bit, and a lot of this is about knowing, but that trusting is an interesting thing. And it's like, you think about it, it's like, a lot of times you don't even have to like someone to trust them. A lot of times you might be living somewhere and you've got some neighbors and you don't see them that often. They seem a little bit strange, a little bit different, but after a number of years of living next to them, even though they're not best friends, even though you don't hang out, even though you feel really different, they've developed some level of reliability, and you might have some trust for them. And so getting the people in your market to trust you is really, really important. And one of the things that helps with that is time. That's why that living next to a neighbor for a period of time, and you learn to trust them over time. Often with a product launch, we can sort of compress time. You can give them, when you're sharing all that content, 3 great pieces of pre-launch content, and then maybe you're in there answering their comments, you can sort of compress time and they can feel like they've known you for a long time, and that can help build up trust. So just by going through the launch process and showing that you're reliable, that maybe you show up in the comments, you're interacting with them, it can really develop a strong level of trust, and that would be huge for you. Another big one is, another mental trigger is anticipation. And this is sort of what the whole product launch formula is built on, is building up this anticipation so people look forward to your actual launch. So they can't get it, they want to get it, they want to get it, they want to get it. They're looking forward to the date when it comes out. You're turning your marketing into an event, and that is really, really powerful. It will set you apart from the rest of the market. So anticipation is super, super powerful. Another big one is likability. If people like you, they're going to want to do business with you. And I live in this very small little town out in the mountains in Colorado, and I see this all the time. The people that you choose to do business with are the people you've gotten to know and the people you like. The people that you think are like you, that's a big part of likability. And so how are you likable? Well, you do likable things. If you do some of the stuff we've already talked about, you give value, building up that reciprocity, that makes you more likable. So it's really that simple. It's like, what makes you likable? Doing likable things. Next trigger is events and ritual. And this is sort of tied to that anticipation. Again, Christmas is a great example for me. In my household, we do celebrate Christmas. That's, December 25th. You're looking forward to that. As a kid, you're looking forward to that all year long. You can't wait. But leading up to that event, there's all kinds of different rituals that happen. When I was growing up, you would go out and get a Christmas tree, and you would decorate the tree, and you would have a special meal on Christmas Eve. And I can't remember all of them. There'd be all kinds of things that, there's TV shows and movies we would watch. And, the decorating the tree had a whole ritual around that. First we did this, we got the tree, we put the tree up, we decorated in a certain order. And all that ritual, humans are built around ritual. And it's not just, of course, Christmas. It works for all kinds of holidays. It works for events like graduations, weddings, even funerals, birthdays, all kinds of holidays, summer vacation. Those things are what bind us together as humans, that event and ritual. And if the more you can take your business and your launch and turn it into an event where people feel like they're taking part in something that's bigger than themselves, that's a key piece. Humans have this innate need to be part of something bigger than themselves, to connect to something higher. It might sound crazy, but a product launch or a business launch could actually be a major event for your clients. Something that they feel like, wow, I was part of this. It's like I have this coffee shop that I go to, and I remember sort of being involved right from the very start, right when he opened that business. This is many, many years ago. But now that coffee shop is part of me. I go to that coffee shop all the time because I was right there at the beginning when he launched that coffee shop. So events and rituals, might seem like, how does that mix with your marketing, your launch? But it's very, very important. It is about going back to that anticipation and turning your marketing into an event. Next trigger is community. Community is a very powerful trigger. If people will act in accordance with the way they think people in their community are supposed to act. You will subscribe to and adhere to the community norms. Humans are social creatures. It's incredible how social we are. And so, yeah, if we're in this, it could be a physical community. You'll care for your home. Your home will tend to look like your neighbors because there's community standards. They're probably not written down, but that's how people in our community act. They keep their yard decorated this way. They keep their yard maintained this way. They keep their house painted or trimmed to a certain level. Well, that works in all kinds of different areas. Like when I'm in a community of musicians, and when you show up, there's certain things you do as a musician, certain ways that you play together, certain ways that you decide what songs to play, certain ways that you tune your instruments. There's ways that community acts. And so with your business, you want to turn your business into a community. You want to bring people into your community, and you want to establish the community norms for your business. And that could be how they treat each other. That could be how they buy your product and how they interact with you and your staff. So building a strong community is one of those things that, will get people to stick with you for a long time as a client. Very, very important. It's a lot easier to sell to someone who you've already sold to than to find new people to sell to. And with community, that's the thing that bonds people to you. They might come for your content or for your product, but they'll stay for the community. So very, very powerful. Next one of the absolute most powerful mental triggers is scarcity. And when there's less of something, we will want it more. I think in the book I used the example of like diamonds and Rolexes and Ferraris. There's less diamonds than there are other kinds of stones. At the end of the day, a diamond is a stone, right? But there's not very many of them compared to like granite or slate or limestone, right? So diamonds are very, very precious because there's very, very few of them. And yes, they have industrial uses, but really, for most of us, when we think of diamonds, we think of decorative diamonds. And they're beautiful, but they're also very, very rare. And that's what makes them, in a large part, so appealing to people. That's why people want them. And so scarcity is a very, very powerful thing. When there's less of something, we want it more. And to the extent that you can build scarcity into your business and your launch, that's awesome. There's lots of different ways to do it. You can limit the amount of product you sell. You can limit the price you sell it. You can limit bonuses. For me, like with Product Launch Formula, I do like one major release of Product Launch Formula a year. And I teach that one major release. I do it like I do almost like a college class is taught. So when I open up the registration for that, people want to get into it, and they have a limited period of time because registration is open, then it's closed, then we start the class. So that scarcity works for me. Now I know it's not going to work for everyone because everyone's got different products and different businesses and different business models, but you can often build in some type of scarcity, even if you just put together a time-limited bonus and make that bonus only available during your launch. Or maybe you have special pricing during your launch. But scarcity is really, really powerful. You got to give people respond to a deadline. We see this over and over. Like when I do a launch, my shopping cart I might be taking orders for 5 days. And the first day we'll do a bunch of orders. Second day, not as much. Third day, not as much. Fourth day, it starts to ramp up because we're looking at scarcity in the fifth day. And then the last day, we'll often do as many sales in that fifth day as we did the 4 prior days because there's scarcity, because there's a deadline. A deadline is the ultimate form of scarcity. Or I don't know if it's the ultimate form, but it's a powerful form of scarcity. And nothing moves people to action like a deadline. Then we've got social proof. Social proof is It's when we see other people doing something, we'll be more inclined to do it ourselves. That's why you go to Amazon, you look at reviews. You're sort of outsourcing your decision making, you're outsourcing your intelligence and looking at what other people are doing, what their experiences have been. If you're selling online, there's nothing lonelier than sitting there at that computer screen wondering, thinking you're going to buy something and wondering if it's a scam, right? Well, with social proof, if you can prove that other people have taken that path and pressed that order button and had success, that's really powerful. We can do that with case studies, with testimonials. You see social proof all kinds of different areas. That's why you go to a download site. If you see something's been downloaded 1 million times, one piece of software has been downloaded 1 million times, another piece of software has been downloaded a couple thousand, and the other one has been downloaded like 20 times. You're going to go for the one that's been downloaded millions of times because you figure those people must know something that I don't know, or they've already been down that path. It's like you drive into a strange town. This is before cell phones and before Yelp, but there's 2 restaurants. There's one on the right side, one on the left side, and this one over here has only got 2 cars in the parking lot, and this one, the parking lot is full. Which one are you going to go to? Well, a few people are like, well, I'll go over here because I'll get served quicker. But most people are going to say, I'm going to go to this one because those people must know something. It's popular. That's social proof. Now, the interesting thing with scarcity and social proof is it's really 2 sides of the same coin. Because when something is scarce, it implies social proof. And when there's a lot of social proof, often something is scarce. So it's really 2 sides of the coin. Now, I've got a few more for you. One of them is sort of what I call the bandwagon effect or critical mass. And that's like everyone wants to jump on top of a winner. They want to get on a winner and ride a winner. And you can often see these like in different fads, like for example, like a number of years ago, Beanie Babies. They were the hot thing. And everyone wanted Beanie Babies. It was just crazy. Every Christmas, I keep on going back to Christmas. And I apologize if you don't celebrate it, but it's a big thing in the Western world. And every Christmas, there's some new hot toy that everyone wants to get for their kids. And you first hear about it, it sounds weird, but then 2 weeks later, everyone's talking about it, and a week after that, you're trying to find it for your kids. That's that bandwagon effect, the critical mass. And if you can somehow create that feeling around your product and your business, that's awesome. Another one is proof. And this is a little different from social proof. Social proof is you see other people doing stuff and they're having success. Proof is where you actually just show that something works. It's just irrefutable. So like if you, maybe you're teaching about how to get your search engine or your website ranked top of Google. If you can just go and pull up your website and show it's at the top of Google, that's proof. There's plenty of ways to develop actual physical proof and show that proof. And when you can do that, it's super, super powerful. Very closely related to proof is demonstration. There's few things as powerful as a good demonstration. I remember hearing about elevators, when elevators were first invented, and no one trusted them. They thought they were going to go in the elevator and it was just going to plummet down to the bottom floor and crash, and you would be in it and you would be killed or injured, gravely injured. So people did not trust elevators. They could not sell elevators. So it was this great invention that saved people time and effort, but they just could not, for the life of them, sell elevators. So then what they did, I think this was at a World's Fair, but I'm not positive. I think it was at a World's Fair. Let's just go with it. And what they did was they created basically an elevator where everyone could see the elevator. So it wasn't actually in a building. It was just sort of an elevator built. And then what they did was because these elevators, they were safety elevators, they had a fail-stop mechanism. So even if they broke and they were to drop, they would only drop a couple feet, and then everything would be fine. So worst case scenario, the elevator wasn't going to fall more than a couple feet. Everyone would be safe. And so what they did was they put this elevator up, and then they made it completely visible so everyone could see it. And then the primary people who had invented it got in the elevator, and they created a failure, basically they made it fail on purpose. They engineered it. They said, okay, 3, 2, 1, it fails, and then it just drops a couple feet, gets caught, everyone's fine, and boom, overnight they had no problem selling elevators. The power of a goods demonstration, is you just cannot underestimate just how strong that is. If you can actually demonstrate your product and demonstrate how it works. I mean, it's like infomercials are built on it. What's that ShamWow type of thing where they're going to wipe up a big spill with a cloth. Demonstrations, very, very powerful. And then the last trigger I want to talk about is what we call the pattern interrupt. So that's where you just completely change the context, change the conversation. Like a pattern, like if I took my shirt off right now, that would be a pattern interrupt. All of a sudden you'd be like, what? And this is how you grab people's attention, by just completely changing the pattern, doing something completely radically different. Now, I am not going to take off my shirt right now, but I'm sure you could see how that would be a huge pattern interrupt. So if you just take a look in your market and you look at what everyone else is doing, and how can you shake that up? How can you be completely different? Doesn't have to be huge, but where can you bring in a pattern interrupt, and that grabs people's attention? Because everything we're talking about is grabbing their attention and then influencing them. Pattern interrupt is super, super powerful. So again, those are some of the triggers, and they're most effective when used in concert, when you're using more than one of them. And when you use them sequentially, that's the great thing about product launches. It gives us, since we're releasing several pieces of content over time, it gives us that opportunity to deploy multiple triggers. Often love to start off with authority first, reciprocity, then we build social proof as we get deeper into the launch, build proof as we get deeper into the launch, build scarcity towards the end of the pre-launch and the end of the actual launch. And then you mix in all the other ones. You're mixing in likability because you're giving great content all along the way. Maybe you're in the comments, answering comments. That's building more authority and more likability. But the more you can layer these in, the more triggers you can use, the more powerful it is. And when you're using all these triggers, it's not like you have to be some amazing salesperson. You don't. You're basically using human biology that's built into all of our brains, and that's never going to stop working. That's why this stuff's going to work 1,000 years from now, because all these same triggers are going to be there. Whether it's today, tomorrow, next year, a decade from now, it's going to keep on working. So the more you can sort of work with these and get better at using them, the better you're going to find, the more influential you'll be in every area of your life. So that is the mental triggers, and put these to use, and it'll make a huge difference.